Spain is empty, right? Ron, I've been living here 20 years, and as someone who's been here that long, I'm seeing the changes in real time. In this vlog, I'm going to explain what I'm seeing about Spain's population explosion from the ground up. I've been living in Spain for 20 years. I've lived in cities, towns, and villages. I'm currently living in a small village in Andalusia, renovating this house. And what I'm about to talk about in this vlog isn't just what someone who's passing through or someone who's on holiday sees. This is daily life for me, and it has been for 20 years. And during that 20 years, you become accustomed to patterns. But when those patterns start to change, you notice it. Now, there does seem to be a common narrative that Spain is empty. And to a degree, there certainly are parts of the country where that is very true. You know, there's an ageing population, there's abandoned villages and rural decline. I'm not doubting that in certain areas. But it's not the full picture. And there's definitely a black and white contrast here, because what is being missed in this narrative is the amount of people. As I say, Spain's population is exploding. I'm seeing a lot more early retirees. I'm seeing people that are coming here to remote work that no longer need to go in the office. I'm seeing a lot more young families that are here that are selling their properties, expensive properties in their own country, and coming here for just a better quality of life. But at the same time, I'm also seeing a changing culture in certain areas, and these changes are maybe the changes that I'm noticing more. So let's talk a little bit about what I'm actually seeing. Now, one of the first things that's hit me is the amount of abandoned buildings that have been abandoned for decades that are now being snapped up and renovated. Another thing that I've noticed, and this is something that I can talk from experience from because I'm in the middle of renovating this property, is trying to find builders is really hard. They're often booked up months or even sometimes up to a year in advance. I'm also seeing a lot of foreign plated cars now. I've always seen them, but there seems to be a lot more. And the ones that I used to see were typically from the same 2 or 3 countries. But now that landscape is changing. I'm seeing literally number plates from every country I can possibly think of. Another big change as well that I've noticed over my 2 decades is the amount of new languages that I'm hearing in Spain. Languages that 10 years ago I wouldn't have typically heard here. And I'm seeing a lot of newcomers that are here permanently. So what I think I'm trying to emphasize here, that there's this ongoing nature of a population change that is taking place in this country. So who are all these people that are arriving daily in Spain? Well, from what I can see, it's quite a broad mix of people, and certainly a broad mix of cultures to a degree as well. So the first type that I'm seeing is a lot more people that are now able to earn their living online. I'm also seeing a lot more early retirees. And one of the other things that stands out is the amount of younger families that I'm seeing that are moving here. I'm talking about families that are selling property, in expensive property in their own country, and coming here, buying the house, and just basically looking for a better quality of life. Even here in my local village, again, the landscape is changing. It's becoming very diverse. We've got people from Africa here. We've got people from Australia here, from America, and from most European countries. So that's how I'm seeing the landscape change, and the kinds of people that are arriving that are changing it. Now, there are positives to this. I know there's a lot of tension between newcomers and locals in certain areas. I see it in the press often, but there definitely are positives to this. So, for example, businesses are thriving more. You know, restaurants and bars are staying open, as opposed to many that I'd seen close down over, I don't know, the last 20 years. As I mentioned, old houses being bought, old apartment buildings that were laying empty are being built and being repaired and being sold. So these are all positives. And to a degree as well, many of these rural villages are now getting second chances. So, you know, I like to be optimistic because it's not all negative. Now, as optimistic as I like to be, there are, of course, negatives that come with this. And I think the first one is the prices of housing, it's gotten to a degree out of control. And for those people that need rentals, again, that has become a very touchy subject, especially for locals, because there's very few rental properties about, and those that are lucky enough to find one are having to pay ridiculous amounts of money for them. Then, of course, there's population pressures. You know, the Spanish system, like many countries, isn't able to easily deal with this amount of people, this influx of people. Of course, as well, we see the media coverage of boats arriving with illegals on the coast, which is adding extra pressure to the system and to taxpayers, etc. And of course, one of the other negatives that many locals don't like is that communities are changing. You know, it's bringing languages and new traditions and new religions, which is bringing cultural diversity, but it's also causing separation in some communities, which doesn't go down well. Then, of course, you've got the problems with not only the housing that we've mentioned, but schools are getting overpopulated to the point where I know some families are having to take their children a long way to almost different areas just to get them into school. I also know that there's many healthcare system failures, and just local services are being put under pressure. So there's definitely community adjustment that's happening. So what are my thoughts about choosing life in Spain? Well, obviously I'm someone who done it, and my reasons for doing it are maybe different to other people. I actually did it for love 20 years ago. I'm no longer with that person, but that was my reason to come to Spain. But watching these changes happen sort of unevenly and almost imperfectly is a concern. You know, there's certain areas that I can go to that are just half an hour away from here where it doesn't actually feel like Spain anymore. It feels like a completely different culture in a completely different country. And the population explosion isn't something that I can see slowing down. I remember when I moved here 20 years ago, I believe the population was 39 million. I read just a few weeks ago it's now hit 50 million. So that's 11 million people in 2 decades. So there's a massive change happening in this country. So I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys. I know there's a lot of Spanish that watch this channel, but there's also a lot of international viewers as well, from America and Australia and even in the Philippines. But I don't care where you're from. I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts are on this. Do you live in the country? If you're living in the country, whereabouts are you living? Are you seeing these changes in real time the same as I am? Anyway, I hope this vlog's given you a little bit of my thought process on the changes that I'm seeing here in Spain. If you have enjoyed it, please remember to give it a like. As I just said, please leave a comment. I'll be really interested to sit here and read your perspective on this. And also, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free to do and it doesn't cost a penny. Anyway, enjoy whatever you're doing for the rest of the day, and I'll catch you in the next one.